this image on the screen. This is what's called an Ishihara test. You might have seen something like it at an optician's. It's the most well-known test for colour blindness. If you can see the number in the dots, then you can see the full spectrum of light visible to humans. However, if you can't, you might be colourblind. Don't worry though, you're in good company. Monet, Turner, Van Gogh are all historical artists who are or have been thought to have had some form of colour blindness, as well as contemporary faces in the art sector like Senetic artist Neil Harbisson. He uses technology to help him sense colour. And Eddie Redmayne, the actor, who in his final thesis at university spoke about art and colour. And you're not just hanging around with them, because around 3 million people in the UK are colourblind. That's 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women. Enough people to fill a colourless society. So, what is colour blindness? Colour blindness, or colour vision deficiency, is an umbrella term for a wide range of conditions. But basically, if you're colourblind, it means that you see a lot less colour than everybody else. The most common form of colour blindness is red-green colour blindness, also known as deuteranopia, which accounts for over 90% of colourblind cases. It usually affects men, as it is often genetically passed down through the X chromosome. To tell us a bit more about being colourblind is Kathryn Albany-Ward, the founder and CEO of the organisation Colourblind Awareness. She has been advocating for more people to understand the condition in the population in general and in education. So, what is colour blindness and what types are there?
So, colour blindness is usually an inherited condition, and it is a problem in the back of your eye with some nerve cells called cones that absorb light. And there are 3 different types of nerve cells that detect colour vision. One detects red light, one detects green light, and one detects blue light. And in colour blindness, one of those cones doesn't function normally, or in some cases, people don't have one of those types of colour blindness. So depending on which cone is affected, that will determine which type of colour blindness you have.
So what are some effects of colour blindness in a person's day-to-day life?
So basically anything where colour is providing information, potentially colourblind people can be confused by the information if they're not sure what colour they're looking at.
That can be really debilitating for a young child. Yeah. In what ways do you think societies, schools, or even infrastructure can support young people and adults with colour blindness?
I think the first step is to make people aware that it actually has more of an impact on everyday life than people tend to think. So most people have heard of colour blindness and they don't think it's really a big thing. And a lot of the time it's not debilitating, but there are a lot of situations where it can be. So the first thing I think I would say, if people could go off and understand what colour blindness looks like, they would instantly have a better understanding of what they need to do in their own sort of particular setting at work or in school or even at home, where they can sort of give secondary information, like add text and labels to things, so that they can make life more inclusive for people who are colourblind.
It's just little things, isn't it, that just can be added just to make things so much more accessible. When a person's approaching a piece of art, in what ways is it different to people that are non-colourblind, do you think?
Well, I'm speaking from somebody who's not got colour blindness, but I've watched my son grow up, and I would say he looks for different things when he looks at a scene or a piece of art. So he might look at textures more, shapes. Those are the things that stand out for him because they are what give him a bit more information. He will see colours as he sees them, and he will make his own view on a piece of art. So I think it depends very much on the individual and what they're interested in, but I would say they would probably look for shapes and textures ahead of colour.
So, what do some real artists who are colourblind have to say about their creative work and experimenting with colour? I spoke to sculptor Robert Mitchell to ask him about his unique experience. And Paul Canavan, who has produced work for popular games like League of Legends and Dungeons and Dragons. So Rob, how old were you when you found out you were colourblind, or you realised you were colourblind?
I would say it was more secondary school. So obviously doing artwork and things in school, that's when I kind of discovered certain things that weren't making sense. And then we had a careers evening and I wanted to go in the RAF. So I had to go to an interview, do certain tests and a medical, and it flagged up that I was severely colourblind, so I wasn't allowed to do it.
I mean, I was in junior school, so I must have been like 10 or something. And I don't think I had any like knowledge of it up until that point, but I do remember being in one class where I was painting the sun for something in like gouache or poster paint or whatever. And I painted the sun. I was like, this is awesome, great sun. And then afterwards, the teacher came up and super yelled at me for painting it green because she thought I was being like a troublemaker. Which, to be fair, I was kind of a troublemaker kid, so I get it. But it was the first time I was like, wait a minute, like I didn't do that on purpose. So I think that was the real like start of my kind of journey of being like, oh, I super cannot see color. Yeah.
When it comes to your art, do you think people viewed it as more unique than other people's art because they didn't understand your colour scheme?
I think they just accept it now. Like I've learned a lot about different ways of mixing colours, just using colours that I'm familiar with. So people are more surprised when they see certain things that they're like, wow, how can you not see that? And I'm like, well, it's just, I can't.
I think I was just really stubborn, honestly. Like, I think anything with my art stuff, I've always been kind of just stubborn about it. And I was like, look, I like doing this. I really liked, I remember earlier I used to just work in black and white a lot of the time because I was just kind of scared to mess around with color. But yeah, I just decided that, I think it was like probably late on in my high school years, I was studying a lot of kind of impressionist artists and people who like use really bold color. And I was like, that's really fun. I super don't know what I'm doing with it, but I'll try anyway. And I really liked it. So I guess stubbornness, basically. I was like, I'm gonna make this my job for some reason. And I'm just gonna go really hard on color. And it turned out people really liked it. I think that's probably the thing that propelled me forward with that stuff.
For me, it's more about the message that I put out. So people say, oh, I'm a dark artist, I'm very twisted. I'm like, well, but you've seen the message, haven't you?
What is your message? Do you have a general message, or?
I think it's mainly mental health based, I suppose. So there's a lot of people who struggle. I get a load of messages of people struggling. And I think that is my main purpose, is to help them, let them know they're not on their own.
So like for me, it's like a constant need to just make stuff. I'm obsessed with storytelling and I love writing. Art is just, for me, I kind of see it as just another tool. It's just another way to tell stories.
So sometimes when you're using colour, do you just kind of roll with it?
Nowadays, I have more control over it than I used to. But yeah, back then, for sure. I'd just be like, painting the grass, whatever, yellow or whatever. And people are like, wow, that's such a bold choice. And I'm like, sure, man. Yeah, it's a bold choice. But yeah, like nowadays, I do still play off on that a little bit. Like I will bring in, and this is like a technique that's known really, it's like I'll bring in colors that you wouldn't expect just to kind of liven up a piece. You know, you're painting a tree and you just bring in like a pop of like bright blue or something. And like people are like, whoa, that's so interesting. I'm like, people have been doing this forever. But it feels good to me. I love using bright colors in my work.
For something like that, you can't go wrong with the colours. You just throw them on, you get what you get, basically. But the message there is anxiety, so the way people deal with the anxiety that's going on in their heads. So I've pictured little gumballs going around and it's called Life Sucks.
Well, I love it.
Thank you very much.
And this one, I'm interested, I need to ask you a question. Can you see the red?
I can't see it. I think that one was a commission. So the colours that I had to do was lime, it's like a green, silver, and I'm pretty sure that was pink. So that, again, it probably wasn't the pink they wanted, but it come out quite nice. And unless I truly mess up on a commission and they go, that's not the colour I wanted, then I'll go back and say, look, can you pick out the colour from a certain colour chart, but I think I fluked that one again. and they was happy with it. So.
You went for feeling, okay? Your feeling, your talent trumped it. I just want to look at this next photo because I didn't look at it. Would you say this is like your style?
I think so. Yeah. It's like it's usually referred to as like imaginative realism. So it's the kind of stuff you see in a lot of games. Use this kind of art style. It's what a lot of us were always kind of pushing for, and I'm always trying to make it better because like there are some people who are so crazy good at painting, it's insane. But it's that like imaginative stuff, but rendered in quite a realistic way, but still with like brush strokes and kind of. Yeah, that kind of impressionist feel, which I love. I
feel like this could be like a wide shot of like Game of Thrones, you know, like an establishing shot.
Yeah. That's totally it, right? It's like trying to pull you into a story, you know, which has always been my favorite type of painting. Something where you look at it and you're like, oh, what's going on there? It's not just a portrait's cool, but like, I love kind of art that pulls you in and tells you like, oh, there's a story here. Like, this is a moment in time.
So when you think of yourself as an artist, do you think of yourself as a colourblind artist or an artist who is colourblind?
Yeah, I think the latter. I try not to focus on it too much now because it's, like I say, it doesn't affect me the way it used to. I think maybe in the first, like, I don't know when I call myself a professional, but like the first 10 years or something of getting into art, yeah, like the colourblindness was definitely like a prevailing thing that I had to deal with. But nowadays I'm like, I mean, it doesn't really affect me as much as it used to because I've taught myself, you know, ways to get around it, right?
Yeah, the second option is, but I still, like I said, I had to deal with it in school, so any younger artists, I try to target them a little bit more as well to say, look, you're not alone. It's like 1 in 12 men have colourblindness, so pursue your dream basically, go for it, and it's hard enough, and it's just a slight little stepping stone that you have to get over, but just continue to do what you love.
Being colourblind can make it hard to navigate a world that often uses colour. But seeing the world differently isn't a vice. It is a gift. These artists have shown us through their work and their lives that being colourblind is nothing to be ashamed of, and they are certainly not alone. There are influential people to look up to with colourblindness in a million of places. People who are colourblind can do anything. The world just needs to help them pick out an outfit every now and then.